everyone. Really and truly happy to be here. Thank you very much to the YBTT team and the Exim Bank support for this particular series, which I think is so needed. And we are very, very happy to have it ongoing here in Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm going to start off this afternoon. We have quite a bit of stuff to cover. I'm going to try my very best to cover all of it as much as I can. As you may be or may not be aware, exporting is a varied topic. It encompasses many key areas of business, but this particular session today is titled Exporting for the First Time. So it really is going to give you the kind of insights that you need to make the kind of decisions that could inform your export development and growth. So whether you are someone who is considering exports, or you are new to exporting, or even if you have been exporting, hopefully you can find some strategies within this presentation this afternoon that you can refine and upgrade and employ within your organization to take the business to the next level. So there is something here for everyone. So without further ado, I would get started. Let me just share my screen. Great. Yes, I believe everyone should be able to see my screen at this point. Just minimize all of this. Great. Okay. So we are talking exporting for the first time this afternoon, and excitement. We are here. I have 2 poll questions that will come up as soon as I'm finished treating with the agenda. So look out for that. I expect your participation. So what are we talking about today? A couple of things. Don't be too alarmed by the length of the agenda. As I said, it's a lot to cover, but we are going to be pushing forward with full force to try and treat with all matters that are contained within this agenda. So first off, we are treating with market entry strategies. Then we are looking at some fundamental factors as it pertains to exporting success. Talking about capacity, market research, packaging and labeling, marketing, IP, and going to touch just a tad bit in terms of trade agreements. We're talking exporting. We heard from the Exim Bank representative that exporting can be a risky business. But more than that, it's also something that you would want to, it's also a tool that you would want to use in your business in terms of growth and expansion. So planning is a big part of that. So planning is crucial in terms of you achieving success in terms of exporting. We would look at assessing the target markets, evaluating your internal capacity, the kind of questions that you need to treat with and have the right answers for, looking at distributor relationships, touch a bit on shipping and logistics. I'm going to also touch on services exports, and then we're going to take a sort of deep dive into some critical considerations and market insights, treating with things that I would have mentioned previously, but just looking at it now through the lens of an exporter, and just touch a bit on markets penetration, and then there is an export readiness checklist. And as would have been mentioned before, we are going into Q&A at the end of this session. So just for me to get a bit of understanding as to who you are and where you are in terms of your exporting journey, I have 2 poll questions. So Joshua, at this point, you can feel free. So the poll is now open, and the first question is pretty simple. Have you started exporting your products or services? As I said, I just want to find out exactly where you are in terms of your exporting journey. And if you're new or haven't done it yet, that's also not a problem. Okay, fantastic. So keep the numbers rolling. Great. So the second question is also being tackled at the same time. What is your biggest concern about exporting? Okay. Hey guys, the clock is still running, so you still have time to get in terms of letting me know where you're at in terms of both questions, both poll questions. Mhm. I'm noticing that thus far we have just about 81% of persons participating, 52 out of 64 participants. If we can just take that number up just a bit, and then we'd be able to stop the poll and to move on. Okay, still going. All right. So I think this is a good enough hit rate in terms of the numbers. I see we have 67 participants. That would make the rest of us who are on the call. So 56 out of 63, taking us to 88%. So for the first question, have you started exporting your products or services? And we see here that the majority of you guys, 77% of you have not officially started. And so I know for sure that this presentation this afternoon is very much going to help you and begin to get you thinking in terms of export development for your business. Those who have started, of course, it's also going to help you. And for the 2% that has been actively exporting, I hope that you would find a lot of value in terms of what is being shared this afternoon. So thanks a lot for being honest in terms of providing me with that answer. Regarding what is your biggest concern about exporting, and I know that goes in different ways. Finding and negotiating with foreign buyers, always something that is key. How do we find these buyers? You know, how do we set ourselves up to find these buyers, and then of course negotiating with them. Developing effective market entry strategies is at 20%, and that's also key because post getting the product into market, it also has to be sustained. So effective marketing strategies obviously is important. The 11% that has selected assessing your export readiness, I'm very happy to see that because it tells me that you are thinking in terms of where you're at and where you need to get to in order for you to become export ready to enter the markets that you would want to be targeting. So finding the right distributor, adapting products to meet foreign markets, understanding import regulation, international regulations and compliance, which is really focused on specific target export markets is something that is very important as well and that you need to understand. Managing your shipping and logistics, and of course, protecting your business from risk and losses. So again, the major percentage is here, A, finding and negotiating with foreign buyers, and I'm going to be talking about working with distributors, which is a very fast and quick and easy way in terms of entry into a new market. And then I will touch on in-market marketing, branding, and in-market promotions within this presentation. So thank you very much for participating in the poll. I will now stop sharing this and we continue on with the presentation. Joshua, I actually said stop sharing, but I'm still seeing it.
And Michelle, you'll just have to click the exit as your post.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I can. All right, wonderful. Okay, great. So let us continue on. In most instances, when I do presentations, I always like to start with a quote because I think this actually sets the tone and help us along as we, get our minds in gear in terms of what we are about to do this afternoon. So this quote I thought was very appropriate. It's the secret of getting ahead is getting started by Mark Twain. The fact is the world of exporting might seem vast and intimidating, but the most important step is the first one. And that is deciding to begin. And deciding to begin looks differently, depending on who is looking at it. But the fact is you are here this afternoon. So this is your first step, your first foray into exporting. And that is with you getting information about exporting and how it can be valuable for your business. The fact is every successful exporter was once where you are now, unsure, even myself, of what lies ahead. But by choosing to take this first step, you're already on your way. So let's embrace the moment and commit to taking action as we go forward today. So we are talking exporting, but before we can even delve even deeper, what is exporting? And there are a number of definitions out there about exporting, but this is one of my favorite ones. This, I think, really encapsulates what exporting is all about, and the source of it is by the ITC, the International Trade Center. And it says exporting is the process of selling goods or services produced in one country. So goods and services produced in Trinidad and Tobago and sold in other countries, whether it's regionally or internationally. All right. And it's from one country to another country, and you're selling it, distributing it, and also, of course, in terms of consumption, meaning that the end user is utilizing the product. It involves the transfer of goods and services across international borders as an integral part of a country's trade balance and economic growth. The fact is, exporting allows you to take what you have built, whether it's a product or a service, and share it with the world. It's about seeing the potential of your business beyond the borders of Trinidad and Tobago and knowing that you are contributing to economic growth, not just locally, but also globally, depending on where you're actually exporting your products to. So as we dive into today's presentation, I want you to think of exporting as a powerful opportunity, a chance for you to grow, to innovate, and impact new markets, whether you're just starting out or you're looking to expand. Today we are going to be getting the knowledge that you need to succeed on this exciting journey. So first port of call today in terms of exporting, we are going to be looking at market entry strategies. So you want to start exporting, but you just can't say, okay, I have a product in the domestic market, meaning Trinidad and Tobago, and I just want to export it, let's say, to Jamaica or to Guyana, or to the US or to the UK or anywhere in Europe or even in the Asian markets, right? You just can't do that. You have to have a market entry strategy, right? Market entry strategies refer to methods used by a company to begin selling its products or services in a new market. It is very, very important for you to choose the right strategy because it's going to help you minimize your risk, maximize your returns, because there is you have to have a certain amount of capital when you are looking at exporting. All right, so you want to be able to maximize that return on investment that you're going to make in this new markets, because you want to ensure your long-term success, right? So the key, choosing the right marketing strategy is very, very, very significant and very important. Now, there are several market entry strategies. Exporting is actually one of those market entry strategies, because it's a direct way of selling goods or services produced in one country to customers in another country. And with exporting, you can either do direct exporting or indirect exporting. When you do direct exporting, you're actually selling directly to the customer or a distributor, meaning an intermediary in the foreign market, in the export market, right? And that would be, so directly is when you sell directly to the end user or the customer, and indirectly is when you actually utilize a distributor or an agent in the export market to help you sell your goods, okay? Another form of market entry would be licensing. And licensing is really about you granting a company in the export market the rights to produce and sell your product in that market. Okay, so I can give you an example. So there is this particular business in Tobago that I had the pleasure of working with in terms of doing their production of their units for their product in China. They obtained a patent for Europe, and the Denmark distributor was actually contracted my company to produce the product in China and then have the product exported to Denmark, and they had a patent that gave them a license to actually distribute the product in certain markets in Europe. The owner of the product will then receive royalties, so they don't have to worry about trying to go into the market, into Europe, and try and sell their product. They connected with a distributor who had a wide reach in terms of where they operated in Europe, in different, whether it's France and Denmark, Belgium, Spain, and wherever. And they were able to get that distributor in Denmark to produce their product in China in terms of units, and be able to sell it now in the European market. And they, as the owner of the product, were able to receive royalties for it. So it can happen, it works. So it is something that you can also think about, especially when you don't have capacity. And I'm going to be talking about capacity in a bit, in terms of your capacity to manufacture, to service the demand for your product in the export markets. Franchising is another way in terms of getting into an export market, into new markets, right? It allows a foreign company to use your business model, brand, and support systems and exchange. We also know that there are a lot of foreign brands in Trinidad, and think about in terms of F&B, the Starbucks and KFCs and all these Wendy's and all of these different establishments. Sometimes it's easy as a market entry strategy to do that, but that requires a lot of capital investment. Why will you go there in terms of a market entry strategy? You will go there because what you are purchasing is something that works, a business model that works, a brand that has longevity, has a reputation, and you would want to go in that direction. And it's like a cookie cutter approach. You adopt it into the country, and then you localize it. Okay, joint ventures. Joint ventures is another good way for you to get into your targeted export markets, but it involves partnering with a local firm to share ownership and control of a new enterprise that will emerge within this export market. So it's you and a partner in the export market coming together to actually develop a new business in that export market. So what that means is that you would be you would actually be joining forces with a partner in the market who hopefully you have done all of your due diligence, you have done the market research, and that partner understands the lay of the land in terms of how things work in that particular market. Okay, and what will happen is that you will share resources, you will share profits and revenues, you would share, everything in terms of the joint venture. All right. Strategic alliances, very, very important. It works. And this works especially for service-based businesses quite a bit. You are forming partnerships with foreign firms to collaborate on specific projects or market opportunities. Okay, it's pretty flexible. You have shared resources again, and it enhances your market reach. So you are operating in Trinidad, but you do not have the capacity to operate in another market. But you have found a partner in that market, and you all can share resources. They have something that you want to help you to get into that market, and you also have something within your services that can help them get into this market. So it's a win-win for the both parties that are coming together. Okay, and then we have foreign direct investment, which is about establishing or acquiring a business operation in the target markets. So maybe you can even establish a subsidiary if it's a larger company. You have, for instance, if you think of our banks in Trinidad, we know that our RBC Royal Bank and Republic Bank, the parent company for Republic Bank is in Trinidad, but it has several subsidiaries across the region. Or if you're looking also from a manufacturing facility perspective, you do have companies that actually establish, their facility in another, in maybe even like in Guyana, and then they can service other countries in the region, in the Caribbean region. So full control as a benefit to foreign direct investment. You get, quick market penetration because you're there, you're operational, you're able to service your customers a lot better. And then you have long-term growth and long-term growth potential in the markets, right? But again, it's a significant risk. You have high investments. And then, of course, you may have a complex regulatory environment based on the target market that you're entering. So some things to think about in terms of your market entry strategies. And of course, the last one we have there is e-commerce and digital marketplaces. So selling your products or services through online platforms or to reach global customers directly. This is what the e-commerce and digital marketplaces do. We have a number of depending on your different type of products, we do have a number of marketplaces available, even in Trinidad, like Shop Caribbean, where you can place your product on this particular marketplace and you can get it shipped to customers, internationally and regionally as well. And from an e-commerce perspective, you yourself could actually have an e-commerce website and sell your products, giving you an additional stream of income in addition to exporting your services to new markets. However, with that, again, payment solutions, you need to ensure that that is sorted. Whether it's a WePay or if you're going through any one of the banking solutions, or if it's PayPal, whatever it is, that has to be in place. You have to ensure that you have enough sufficient product in order to meet that demand as well. And then, of course, the whole issue of logistics. How do you get, so you come onto my site, you make the payment, how do you get the product into the hands of the customer? What type of logistics and shipping do you have in place for that? And that in itself can happen because depending on product, you can actually set up like a DHL account and get your product shipped. Internationally, the customer is going to absorb the cost. So there are lots of different ways and avenues but definitely as a market entry strategy, or to even support, let's say if you are decided to do indirect exporting where you have a distributor, you may also have an e-commerce site where the distributor is taking care of the products in the export market, but you are also selling your products online. Nothing will preclude you from doing so, but once within the whole distributor arrangement or agreement, those things are discussed and agreed and documented from a contract perspective. So let's just turn our attention a little bit now in terms of market entry strategies for services-based companies, so even services-based companies like myself, right? And utilizing this basically the same export strategies, but just again from the services perspective. So we see that service companies have several options to enter new markets. The choice of entry mode depends on factors like the nature of the service, the target market conditions, and the company's long-term goals. Those are just some of the key considerations that a service-based company would need to think about, right? You have direct exporting, whether you're providing the service directly to clients in foreign markets or from your home country. So for instance, for my business, I do business in China and other markets in Asia. So what I do is that I provide quality control services across 12 markets in Asia, including China, which is my main source market. But personally, I don't do that. I have a strategic alliance agreement with one of the largest quality control service providers in China. And through them, I'm able to offer that service, which is a third-party service, but it complements my suite of services that I offer to my clients and gives me a wider reach in terms of the Asian markets. So from right here in Trinidad, I can actually conduct quality control services, whether that is pre-shipment inspections or supplier verification or qualifications, or EU and US compliance testing, lab testing for clients who are moving goods across Asia with my services through my third-party service agreements with my supplier. So I hope that you get that. What I want you to do is to expand your mind as you think about your services, as you think about, exporting. All right. So you would find that services such as, consulting services, business and professional services, IT services, telecommunication services, construction services, legal, attorneys, all of these types of services are very easy in terms of exporting those types of services. Okay. You can have, as you see here, I just mentioned strategic alliances. You can form joint ventures. You can do so much. You could also look at establishing a local presence by setting up a branch or subsidiary. But then again, it is going to be, you're going to have the capital investment to do that as well. Okay, and then of course we have digital platforms and e-commerce, which is very, very important, again, to service-based companies. Just generally in terms of the way that we do business as a service-based company, our communication tools, how we interact with our partners in the export markets is also very important. So we have to leverage online platforms. Zoom is one of the ways that you will have meetings. You can have all different types of platforms besides Zoom in terms of you communicating. I have a global team. I utilize Slack, to get everybody on board in terms of meetings every Monday morning and doing our check-ins. You have WhatsApp Business. You can use Slack as well. I mean, there are a multitude of online platforms that you can use to start, just getting your business ready and setting yourself up to export your services. So when you find the right partner, you are not scrambling to try and get all of these key things in place. Okay. So when you digital platforms and e-commerce makes the business scalable. It gives it a broad reach as well. But we cannot forget, conversely, that you may have intense competition, and then you have to look at cybersecurity risk as well, especially in terms of data protection and all of that. So now we will dive into some fundamental factors for exporting success and explore some key areas. You heard me mention capacity a couple of times already, so I just want to just treat with that a little bit. Market research and targeting. Market research, when you talk exporting, it's almost synonymous, not almost, it is synonymous. Market research, market research, market research. Before you get your feet wet, before you venture into a new market, and even while you're there, to ensure that you are keeping pace with what is happening on the ground in the export market, regardless of the partner that you have there, market research is very, very important. And there are different forms of market research, different ways in which you can conduct market research. Okay. Then, of course, the visual presentation of your product. What does that product look like? What is it telling? What is it telling the consumer in the export market? Can they really relate to that product? Is it relatable, right? And then marketing. How do you market the product? You know, intellectual property protection, that's a big one when you're talking about exports as well. And even with exports that are regional. And then market access, you know, I want to export to the US. So I want to export to I don't know, to Panama, to Costa Rica, yes, to Colombia. Right? I know I'm mentioning Spanish-speaking countries, but the fact is, if you need to understand, or you should take the opportunity to gain knowledge as it pertains to the various trade agreements that Trinidad and Tobago has with some of these countries that will allow you to enter those markets a lot quicker. So let's get into it. So capacity. So if you are in the manufacturing space, and that could be for, you know, across various sectors, you know, F&B and whatever, you are interested in exporting your products. Now, the capacity refers to your ability to produce and supply enough goods or services to meet the demands of both Trinidad and Tobago, your domestic product, and the regional or international market that you are targeting. Now, there is a rule of thumb with respect to that. Okay, what that rule of thumb says is that you must be able to service 80% of your domestic markets and have at least 20% of excess capacity within your production, within your manufacturing facility to service the demand within export markets. All right. So what this does is that it ensures that the business can maintain a stable supply for its current customers while entering new markets. It affords you scalability. Your production processes should be scalable. If there's a sudden increase in demand, you know, what are you going to do if you're unable to fulfill? And if you can't fulfill demand, then you have no right being even starting to export. Okay, now let me just check the chat. I'm not sure.
Hey, Michelle Shedronier. So I guess one quick question that someone had was just around focusing on solely exporting their product, especially as you're relating the 80-20 rule.
Mm-hmm. Yes, solely exporting your product, definitely. But again, I mean, I can give you an example. I was just at the Agro Expo, which I think was last weekend or weekend before. Forgive my memory, which was absolutely great, right? So of course there are small scale, what I call small scale producers. So I went up to this particular company and I said, you know, I just love this, you know, where can I find it? And I was told, well, do you have a website? No. Do you, is it in any stores locally in Trinidad? No, where can I find it in Tobago? You have to give me a call, but I'm exporting to Barbados. I said, okay. All right. So you are exporting to Barbados. I'm not sure how that is working for you, but the point of the matter is, you cannot find the product in the domestic markets, right? So it is highly possible that you have left a lot of room in the local domestic market because you have not serviced the domestic market and you have already jumped to export it. If your products are totally geared towards exporting because you develop your products specifically for export, no problem. But if you're trying to do both, then the 80% and 80-20 rule is something that you need to factor in. Service the domestic market, get an understanding as to what is happening in terms of your product in the domestic market. And if you do have that excess capacity, meaning the excess capacity within your production to service exports, then that's where you can go. And you can go there safely because you have to satisfy demand. All right. So I hope I was able to answer your question. So yes, focus on your product. Focus on your product. Okay. Let's continue. So the big one, as I mentioned, market research. Market research requires some skills, basic skills, and then you're going to need some skills to get some real information. I'm talking competition data in the export market that you're targeting, right? Understanding trade data as it pertains to market research, your product and similar products or competitive products, how do you get that information, right? But before I even get there, with market research and targeting, the first thing that you have to do is understand, in terms of identifying the markets, is to understand the market size and growth. So you need to evaluate the overall market size and growth potential. So let's take a look at the personal care market, right? This is a big market at the Agro Expo, at TIC, and I mean, personal care products are all over, and I could understand why, and I love them. I do support quite a few manufacturers of personal care products locally, because I believe that with our biodiversity and we can actually leverage that in terms of the authentic ingredients, organic, that we can use in terms of producing our products here, right? All of that to tell you, if you are getting into the personal care, or if you are, that's the operating space, research, let's say, is very, very important. So let's say you want to target Jamaica, for instance, you identify Jamaica as a target market. You would need to get specific trade information and conduct your own desk research, as well as try and get competition data on the ground in Jamaica. So you may even have to make a visit to get that kind of information, because you want to know, is there room in the market? What if there are several operators within that particular market? The market may be saturated. It may not have room for you to come in, but there are 14 CARICOM countries. So, there are other countries that you may want to look at. So you can start looking, when you're looking at identifying your markets, you want to look at the market size. You want to see the growth and potential in the market that can be a signal that, there may be possibility here for me. You want to know that there's competition in the markets as well. Competition is good. We always tend to look at competition as bad, but competition is good. Competition tells an investor, especially, that, this is a space that, you need to be in. And they're going to get a return on their investment. So you need to understand the competitive dynamics that is existing in that market, as well as economic indicators, meaning, how much of this product is actually imported into the export market, which companies, which brands are out there. You want to get a lot of other information in terms of pricing and so on. Okay, and then we have consumer culture and taste, very important. We have a situation in where we figure that, okay, we are exporting our products in the region and each market is the same. No. Cultural preferences, consumer behavior, even adaptation of your product is very important. And you need to pay attention to these things, which may seem small, but make such a huge difference in the success that you're seeking to achieve in the export markets. Okay, so for instance, I can give you an example. I never even knew this before. Rose water is actually a product that is used in when you're baking goods in Jamaica. All right. So let's say you are in the F&B industry and you want to sell your product to Jamaica. But you are just making whatever, whether it's a particular formulation to make, let's say, cakes or something. You need to be aware of that information, that rose water is utilized by Jamaicans in terms of their baking. However, in Trinidad and Tobago, if you are selling your product in Trinidad and Tobago, that is not an ingredient I expect to see, because I don't think that we use rose water for baking. And this may seem to be very, very trivial, as if this is not important, but believe me, it is important because it is a cultural preference. Yes. So you need to understand that that is very, very important. Then, of course, in terms of market research, is there a demand for the product, for your product? You need to know that. You need to know that from the very beginning, because then there is no need for you to go into that market. So a demand analysis, trend analysis in terms of, how this type of product similar to yours has been performing in that market. What is the forecast over the next couple of years growth-wise for that product? Yes. Then, of course, you want to identify through your market research channels of distribution. What is the best way for you to get the product into the hands of the customer in this particular market? And then, of course, with market research, what are the type of standards and quality quality assurance that needs to be in place with your product to get your product into the market. So certifications, do you need to have any type of certifications in place before you can get the product into the market? Right here in Trinidad, in the domestic market, you will need to have, you would most likely, if depending on product, the product will be tested by Cariri, or you need to get the Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards involved in order to ensure that the product is safe for consumption or safe to be utilized by end users, which are Trinidad and Tobago citizens. And it's going to be a similar thing in the export market that you're targeting. Let me just continue on. So market research is key. All right. And here I have a number of resources, places that you can go to actually help you in terms of your market research. And I have specifically highlighted Panjiva and Dun and Bradstreet. Now, these, based on the poll, I see that many of you are looking at now starting out in terms of exporting. So you're really gathering information and getting yourself ready to export. Panjiva is a tool that provides detailed information on global trade, including shipping records and supplier and buyer information, market trends, and so on. It is useful for identifying potential suppliers and competitors, analyzing trade flows, and understanding market dynamics. However, both Panjiva and Duns and Bradshaw are paid subscriptions. So you have to put out some money. Many exporters, if as the saying goes, you're serious about exporting, then you're going to be serious about market research. You're going to find the funds to be able to get access to these tools that is going to help you in terms of your achieving exporting success. However, You can reach out. We do have Export TT, which now has become, I believe, I saw an article in the newspapers recently, the Trinidad and Tobago Trade and Investment Promotion Agency Limited, a merger between Export TT and Invest TT, and I believe one of the agency. But I assume that they will still provide you with this type of research if you reach out to them. It is going to, because of course, they are focused on export growth and development, increasing our exports in Trinidad and Tobago, so they can provide you with some of this information. So you can feel free to do that. If you are in the services, if you are a service-based company, you can reach out to the Trinidad and Tobago's Coalition of Services Industry and seek some help there. Caribbean Export Development Agency, they also have some market research information available. You can reach out to them. Just visit all of these websites, right? Very, very, very important in terms of you gathering information. I know a number of manufacturers in Trinidad who have, purchased these subscriptions specifically to Panjiva. Not to Duns and Bradstreet, but the last conversation I had with an Export TT representative is that they were going down the road of getting that paid subscription for Dun and Bradstreet because it will help our local exporters in terms of gathering market intelligence and providing the kind of research that is required. Now, at this juncture, I just want to say to you that doing what we call an in-market visit to gather ground research is always a winner. It takes, there's a cost associated to that, but when you prepare your export plan, you can include that cost on the market research. A lot of companies do that locally. That is where you have people attending a lot of trade missions that are hosted by the by Export TT, by the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association, sometimes in collaboration with, as well as the Trinidad and Tobago Chambers of Commerce. So those types of opportunities, it's yes, you're going to get business, but sometimes companies, and I know this for certain, utilize those missions to not just win business or get business, but also to gather ground research, to really and truly understand what their competitor is doing on the ground and where this type of product actually fits. And actually going there and talking with potential buyers to ascertain whether or not the product, is needed within the market, if there's demand, and if there is the potential for strategic alliance building with a distributor in the markets. Okay, so again, I can't say this enough, but market research is very important. Just taking a look at the chart once more. Someone is having some problems. Okay. Okay, so we are continuing along. Let's take a look at packaging and labeling. I think from what I've been noticing in the markets, whether you are a large-scale producer or small-scale producer, I think that we are doing a fantastic job in terms of packaging and labeling. I also know that it is a struggle. It is a struggle in terms of getting the type of packaging that we want as producers, but we have certainly come a long way, and hopefully, things get better as we move forward. But packaging and labeling is critical to the end product that you want to export. Okay, so in terms of protection of goods, that's what the packaging does ultimately. Yes, it looks really pretty. It has your branding, it has your call to action, it has a whole host of things, but it really and truly is about protecting the product in terms of travel, in terms of when you have to export it as well, okay, and ensuring longevity and durability. So you need to choose durable materials to ensure the product remains intact during transit in terms of exporting, ensure that it is sturdy, maybe even moisture resistant, which can prevent damage, especially for delicate items. And then, of course, there is regulatory compliance. Right now, you're talking international standards. The packaging must meet specific regulations of the destination country or the export market that you're sending it to. Okay, and a lot of these countries are going to have specific written standards that your packaging must meet. And as someone who is starting out, or even if you're already there, sometimes this could be a real this could be something that really, stumps you in terms of your exports development agenda, because, changing your packaging to suit the export market, to give you that entry into the export market, costs a lot. All right. So, but I'm going to share with you some grant opportunities at the end of the presentation today that hopefully you can start having discussions as you look at growing your exports, right? Or getting into the export market. So very important. Now, the whole thing right now, across the world, it's all about sustainability and having eco-friendly packaging, right? Using recyclable or biodegradable materials not only meets growing consumer demand for sustainable products, but can also enhance your brand's reputation and its appeal. And then, of course, you want to have cost-effective packaging. You want to be able to optimize the design elements in your packaging, right? And then you want, as well as based on the type of packaging that you choose for your product, you also have to think about shipping and, ensuring that the packaging is concise. It's the design maximize the space that it needs to fill within, let's say, a container. All right, so that it can help you even to reduce your shipping costs. Let's say the packaging is stackable, okay, where you can make the most of available space, so you can ship more but for less. Okay, so that is something that you need to think about. And then, of course, the whole issue of branding and marketing, the cultural adaptation, right? Ensuring that your packaging reflects your brand while catering to local preferences. Packaging tends to resonate with local tastes. So we need to keep that in mind because you want to be able to attract more customers and basically enhance market acceptance of the product. Okay, so those are some key consideration in terms of packaging and labeling. And again, here we see the regulatory compliance, and I have some pictures of some labeling here for you to see. Because some of these certifications really do help you push you through the door or give you that one-up in terms of a competitive edge of your product in the export market and even domestically as well. So you may want to consider that, right? Clarity, cultural sensitivity, you have to be aware of different colors and symbols and text that does not, that will not offend or confuse customers in the target markets. Okay, clarity and accuracy, ensure that all the information on the label is clear. I have seen some labels in my time. It has to be legible and accurate, avoiding misleading claims. Okay, and then of course, now in terms of packaging, we want to look at having, barcodes and so on it. And then there's language considerations. If you're exporting to Canada, your part of your label must be in French, right? However, if you're exporting to, let's say, Suriname in the Caribbean, it is not absolutely necessary according to Surinamese law in terms of labeling requirements for you to have the packaging in Dutch. Okay, so these are some of the little nuances that you need to be mindful of. But then again, these things are going to rear its head in the market research that you are going to be conducting. Okay, so let's just switch up here a bit and turn our lens to marketing or branding in export markets. So I think I've said enough about the cultural adaptation, but I just want to highlight this a little bit more, right? I have a picture on the screen of Kit Kats. We all know Kit Kats, but ensuring that you have consumer preferences and you have cultural adaptation in Japan, Kit Kat actually is now, the Kit Kat packaging is no longer going to be foil. It actually is going to be paper. The Japanese love origami. So now you are able to take that Kit Kat packaging and actually make a paper crane, which, you know, resonates with Japanese people in the market. I found this to be so unique because I think it is something that we need to be mindful of when we think about entering a market and how we can distinguish ourselves, right? What can give us that competitive edge besides the uniqueness of our own product in terms of the ingredients and or the particular service or whatever it is. Okay. We also have to maintain brand consistency, right? Even while adapting to local markets, you want to maintain core brand values and consistent identity, which is crucial for the brand. Okay, something that you may not be aware of. I know that some market research that I was privy to within the last year or so, research being conducted to enter the Guyana markets as it pertains to laundry detergents and so on. What came to the fore is that if you are looking to get into Guyana, yes, a lot is happening in terms of the oil and gas industry in Guyana. It has blown up and probably will continue to do so over the number of next few years. But the fact is, Guyana's population is still small. So market size, we need to be, you know, we need to take that into consideration. I'm sure it's growing, you know, every year on year, because you have so many expats and a lot is happening, but it's still relatively small in terms of, you know, genuine Guyanese, not expats. And the fact is that with the increase in earnings in Guyana, that amount of money hasn't necessarily filtered down to the man in the street Guyanese person. So whereas in Trinidad and Tobago, we do a lot of bulk purchasing, in Guyana, you will still probably need to provide smaller package sizes of your product, depending on the type of product, depending on the sector that you're in. So that was something that was revealed itself in the market research. And I was like, wow, that is very, very interesting to note, because as a manufacturer, you may be producing your product and moving full speed ahead. You know, I have the packaging, there's no issues in terms of regulatory compliance and getting into the market. I satisfy all the labor laws, environmental laws, and everything from a regulatory perspective, but you're not thinking too much about the consumer and the consumer's disposable income, and the fact that they cannot purchase too many large size items in which we call bulk purchasing. For this particular item, they purchase it in smaller sizes. And if you go to the supermarkets and so in Guyana, you will actually see the product in a lot smaller sizes. So I'm mentioning this to you. Keep this in mind. And again, something like this is going to rear its head in market research. And then, of course, you have legal protection. And I will touch a little bit on IP in a short while in terms of protecting your trademark and your logos and so on as you look at the export markets. Okay, so I think I need to move. It's after 7. I need to move a little faster. Marketing and branding, once again, in terms of promotional strategies, you have to emphasize the importance of adapting language, imagery and marketing channels to align with local or cultural preferences, because this ensures that the brand resonates with the target audience, increasing engagement and sales. I mean, why are you doing this? You're looking at increased revenues, you're looking at increased profitability, you're looking at scaling your business, you know, increasing your reach, expanding the business footprint, right? And for the company to grow from strength to strength. All right. Digital and social media, right? Pay attention to how that is being done in the export markets as well. You know, you may want to encourage the use of influencers and celebrities within the local market to actually sell, to help as part of your marketing strategy to sell your product in the target markets. Okay, be aware in terms of how products similar to yours, or just in a general sense, how the export market treats with warranties, return policies, and after-sales services. And because you need to build trust and you need to also meet local expectations. So maybe you have a product in Trinidad where, you know, you don't have an after-sales service as part of your service to the customer in Trinidad, but maybe it is something that is expected in the export market. The market research will tell you that. So you also need to set up yourself in such a way that you're able to provide that after-sales service. Okay, so take note of that and treat with it accordingly. That is information that is very important to you. IP. Intellectual property protection is vital for safeguarding your brand in the Caribbean. I want to tell you that Trinidad and Tobago, our intellectual property office, is known in the region to be one of the best IPO offices across the region in terms of intellectual property rights, and to a certain degree in terms of enforcing our intellectual property rights here locally. Intellectual property across the region is a bit iffy. It depends on governments and where they place their emphasis. However, what we have done with our local exporters is to ensure that they connect with our local IPO office, get their trademark sorted, register the IP here in the domestic market first, and then get advice from our local IPO office as to how they go about registering their IP in the export market that they're thinking of. So keep that in mind, very, very important, because what you don't want is infringement. You don't want to go into a market where there are other players operating with similar brands and products as yours, and you are being cheated. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that I wanted to touch a bit in terms of trade agreements. Okay, trade agreements, bilateral trade agreements are considered one of the effective avenues through which domestic firms can grow and achieve international competitiveness. Trinidad and Tobago has several bilateral trade agreements as it pertains to products, and on a lesser scale to services. Okay, these agreements are beneficial because they provide you with stable and predictable and transparent access to markets. If the trade agreement already exists, it means that there may be some benefits there for you. It will also, if you have any disputes in that market, it probably will say what, how you treat with those disputes, what type of concessions is there that you can avail of. Improve reduction of tariffs, and protected tariffs is like a tax that is added on by governments to actually protect their local markets. Okay, but within CARICOM, there's a lot, it's easy in terms of, there are a lot of different tariffs that you don't pay a tariff, sorry, if you are within CARICOM, depending on certain products. Okay, you want to have mechanisms to resolve, as I said, disputes and specific problems that will be contained within the trade agreements. It can simplify the rules of origin. The rules of origin or the COO is very important in terms of your product. Export TT is the agency in Trinidad and Tobago that can guide you, and not just guide you, but help you in terms, they actually provide that certificate of origin that you need for your product in order for you to export. And that's this certificate of origin means that the product, they have to prove that the product has been manufactured in Trinidad and Tobago or some major component of it. So you will most likely need to contact them to get information, and I implore you to do that because the rules of origin is very, very important. Trade agreements also provide a trade and customs facilitating environment for exporters. Okay, and I just wanted to highlight here, these are 10 bilateral trade agreements that are basically in existence for Trinidad and Tobago. We have one with Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, and if you are keeping your ears to the ground, and if you are looking at getting into exports very seriously, you would want to do that, especially as it pertains to gathering your research and maybe even possibly participating in trade missions and so on. So we have had trade missions recently to Dominican Republic, to the Ministry of Trade, to several of the CARICOM countries as well. Services companies, there is and I'm just mentioning this, but there is the EU Economic Partnership Agreement. That is something that you want to take a look at, get information on. And then of course, CARICOM Canada, we are doing quite a bit now with Panama. I see that, you know, in the news all the time. So all of this information is available on the Ministry of Trade's website. Go there, get yourself in order, get and review, and then make your connections with the various agencies. So with exports, planning is crucial. And I hope that you can see that from the get-go, from when I started the presentation. You have to conduct your research, right? And when you conduct the research, you're not just conducting research and just, you know, having it there. The research is very, very important, because what you will want to do as an exporter is to produce what we call an export plan, right? If you are lucky enough to be part of an export incubator, or if you are or part of an export accelerator program, these are two programs that I know that Export TT has rolled out. I've participated in it as a business coach. So I know that if you are able to get onto these programs, it will go a long way. So keep your ears to the ground in terms of that. So the market research, development of your export plan, development of an export marketing plan, these are key documents that is going to help you and part of your roadmap for success as it pertains to export. All right, so financial, and in there you would capture all the finances that is necessary for the development for advancing your export development for your business. So now we are looking at identifying, looking at assessing your target markets. And this is very important. Some of it we have touched on already, right? We need to identify and target the market segment. So we need to know specifically who you are selling these products to. Okay, who are these customers, right? So for instance, when Angostura Bitters targeted the US in terms of getting into the US, they didn't just target, let's say, bartenders, right? In terms of getting the brand out there and getting knowledge of it. I'm not talking about the distributor that they would have hired, but in terms of their marketing, they would have looked at people, you know, cocktail enthusiasts and mixologists in terms of getting that information out there, identifying the target market segment is very important. Okay, also you want to look at the pricing, right? Understand the pricing of similar products, the current market trends, and who your competitors are. I want to tell you, this comes under the banner of competition data. I want to tell you that a lot of the times, even though we have these establishments, the Export TTs, the TTCSIs, and others, and the Panjivas and all of that, we are unable to still get the kind of data that we need. Real information about the pricing, real information about packaging, real information about the competitive landscape within the export market. In those instances, you want to conduct an in-market visit. Okay, so keep that top of the mind. You want to know what the distribution channels are in terms of getting the product into the hands of the customer, whether it's just a distributor or, you know, a joint venture, whatever it is, but you want to be able to know how to get it into the hands of the customer and what is being utilized by your competitors on the ground. What are the shipping routes, right? And the cost as well, you know, what is involved in terms of you choosing the right partners in terms of logistics. Okay, whether it's a customs broker, a consolidator, freight forwarder, you know, what are you using? What are the distribution channels? Okay, so keep these things in mind. Very, very important. Okay, now within your own company, and this takes us back just a little to looking at evaluating your internal capacity treats with your business, your internal business, where you're at. And if you're planning for exports, it's going to give you food for thought, right? When evaluating your internal capacity for exporting, you want to stress the importance of understanding whether your organization truly has the resources to enter and serve this new market. So you have to be honest with yourself. Okay, because we need to know whether or not we can meet the market demands. Flexibility is key here, right? I often remind myself and others to think about how we might need to adjust our strategies. Again, utilizing the research, whether we need to tweak the product features of the existing product. It is not golden to always think that the product in its existing form can just be picked up and dropped into another market. Okay, you have to look at the features. What type of promotional tactics do you utilize, right? And how these new efforts will impact your domestic operations. Okay, so assessing where you are and looking at where you want to go and what it takes for you to get there is very, very important in terms of your internal capacity. And just a couple more things in this area because it's that important, right? You need to also check the availability and reliability of your raw material supply. Very, very important. Because you could be thinking, and I had a situation with a local exporter in terms of that. They had gotten, basically gotten a deal and signed on partially, thank God, partially, to send two container loads to Colombia. And lo and behold, the raw material supplier in Trinidad was, closed its doors. What are you going to do? So because they had some time before they actually started shipping, they were able to get another raw material supplier. You do not want to find yourself in those kinds of situations, right? The other thing that is very critical is for you to assess the skills and availability of your workforce. Do you have someone within the business, if it's not yourself or someone else who has international trade experience, who has international marketing experience, right? Or do you have access to those types of persons? What is your financial situation currently and what is it projected to be? What type of resources do you need or you have internally that you may need to scale up in order for you to service the export market? You really and truly need to analyze your business and see how it stands up against competitors in terms of efficiency and market position as well. So evaluating the internal capacity is critical for you, right? That again, it comes back to assessing your export readiness and answering some of these key questions. So now it brings me to distributor relationships. One of the quickest ways, as we would have seen in market entry strategies, is for you to get into markets quicker and less costly is by way of utilizing a distributor in the new market, in the export market, right? But it's not just about selecting a distributor. Okay. And let me just answer this question quickly because I saw in terms of the pool, it's not just about, it's also about finding buyers. So finding buyers could be a distributor in the market. In order for you to be finding buyers, you also need to be visible. So it's not always about a distributor finding you, but a distributor has to be able to see you in order to find you. So it means that even in your current situation in terms of your business and wherever you're at, your digital footprint is something that you probably need to be working on. And I'm not even going to go down that road because I know that Karen Rose, you would have had him last, and he would have spoken about the digital infrastructure that is required for you to be present online in such a way that it really enhances the visibility of your business. Okay, so the distributor has to find you, but more than that, in selecting a distributor, you have to develop what we call distributor selection criteria. You have to know what you want. Yes, what you want in a distributor. Okay, because whatever it is that's decided between you and that distributor has to be placed into a contract. All right, a lot of exporters locally, and when I say a lot, I say I'm very true to that, have been exporting and continue to export consistently without distributor agreements. However, that is not something that they can continue to do going forward. It is having contracts with distributors is something that needs to be in place, because it helps you in terms of the relationship, managing that relationship and ensuring that you get the kind of revenues that you are looking for. And it also helps the distributor in terms of the type of working relationship that you have with them, so that both of you are able to get the wins that you want. Right? So a distributor in agreement is very important, and it helps you to build a successful partnership when everybody's on the same page. Okay, so in terms of a distributor relationship, distributor selection criteria is important. You need to know what type of distributor that you want. That distributor would be somebody like, you will have, are they financially stable? Does the distributor have the necessary facilities to serve the markets? You know, what is their reach? You know, are they only operating in one particular area north of the country? So what's happening with east, west, and south? You know, and you want that reach because you want to be able to grow your business in that market. Is the distributor connected to the appropriate network for selling your product? How many products similar to yours that are they currently selling? Where will your product fall in terms of their line of products? What kind of marketing are they willing to do to support your product in the market? Now, if they're taking it on, it means that there's probably going to be some cost sharing that will form part of the distributor agreement as it pertains to servicing the market with your product, right? So what is the significance of your product in the distributor's overall product line? Very, very important. These are things, you know, do they have warehousing? You know, what is their you know, do they have fleet? Do they have sales staff? You know, what do you need to provide to them as well? What type of marketing material do you have to provide, market training for your product, and all of these kinds of things? So these are the kind of questions and the things that you need to consider as you think about a distributor. All right. Any questions in the chat?
No additional ones right now. Could always address.
Okay, great. Wonderful. All right. So we are moving on now to shipping and logistics, because I know this is an area where people need to, you know, get some information on as they look at this particular area that is crucial, because it impacts your revenues as well, and your profitability. So in terms of shipping, we have air freight, we have sea freight, and just to get you to understand pretty quickly, if you're utilizing air freight, it's going to be more expensive. It means that you're going to be utilizing some of the global international carriers that we have here, the FedExes and the DHLs, but you're going to pay more for it. But the thing is, you will receive the goods a lot faster if it is goods that they actually ship. So it is something that you would need to understand, you know, the ins and outs, especially in terms of cost, you know, how you're going to be getting the product to the distributor, and then getting it into the hands of the consumer if it is that you are doing direct exporting in that market. Okay, when you have a distributor as an intermediary and they're the ones that are receiving the product, it means that you don't have to worry about, you know, on the getting the product into the hands of the consumer, because they're taking care of it once it hits the port in that particular country. They take ownership of it as part of the distributor agreement. Your responsibility ends when it leaves your warehouse and it is shipped to them. It's on its way to them. And then we have, you know, packaging and labeling. You know, the goods need to be packaged safely. I mentioned that, so that you don't incur any damage during the journey. The labeling, we went through that. Sometimes, you know, especially in the chemical sector, I know many manufacturers have to have that additional labeling that says fragile, you know, or dangerous or hazardous, you know, content and so on. So these are things you need to be mindful of. And then customs and documentation. All right, when goods enter or leave the country, there are certain documentation that needs to be prepared. Right, documentation, important papers. You must have your invoices, your bill of lading, which shows what's being shipped, and the cost, the certificate of origin, where it was manufactured, very important. You know, and these documents are like passport for goods. So you must have these in order for it to enter any market or be received in any market. And then if we look at the shipping process in a very simplified way, I just outlined here like a 5-step process. So you are preparing the goods, right? You choose the right transportation mode, ship or plane. You have all your customs and your necessary documentations in place. You use tracking systems in order for you to get the goods, to know where the goods are during the journey, and you have the goods delivered to the final destination. Now, to do that, you of yourself don't need to do that. You can, most of the times, you would want to have a customs broker handle any sort of shipping, or you need to have in terms of clearing, but more than that, you also want to have a freight forwarder who will actually get the goods out of Trinidad and Tobago and ship it wherever it needs to go in terms of your destination for exports. Okay, so you want to get information in terms of that, but more, I also want to share with you that there are challenges in shipping under logistics, and sometimes even last week Thursday, I was talking to a client who has, have a shipment on the seas and, did not take into consideration whether the weather conditions, or if there are delays at the port of entry where you have people ships are piling up, especially going through to Panama, and the customer cannot get the goods, and there is a crisis in terms of timing, in terms of goods delivery. So these are things that you need to be you need to know. Even if you say, okay, well, I sent it to the freight forwarder, so they're taking care of it. No, as a business owner, that is something that you need to be aware of. Or if you are a big enough company and you have an export manager, they need to be aware of those things as well. Okay, the cost, shipping can be very expensive, both by sea, even though sea is less, because it takes longer. There can be, increases in cost. So you need to ensure that the goods can be delivered rather quickly. And then you need to know if it's damaged, how that is going to be treated, right? So that is why it is very important for you to choose the right partner as it pertains to, doing business in the export markets. All right, so I would have touched on services exports as we looked at the market entry strategies. So I don't want, that is basically a slide I should have moved further because I would have dealt with it already. So now I want to focus you on some critical considerations and market insights that I think that you need to be aware of. Now I have here, I'm not going to be delving into packaging and labeling all over again, but I have on the screen here for you to take note of something. The nutrition facts, the labels that you're seeing here, it's important. You may not know, but these are labels for Bertie's pepper sauce. You may not know that Bertie's pepper sauce is also being retailed on Amazon, and it's also being sold in PriceSmart, right? So the label on the left is actually the PriceSmart label, and the label on the right with the barcode, as you can see, is the label is the label that is attached to the bottle of pepper sauce when you purchase it from Amazon, right? So I wanted for you to see that, to say that, okay, labeling in itself is expensive. So you can have this type of labeling on the left in the domestic markets, and then you ensure that you have what is necessary for sale of the product in the international markets. Okay, and that means that the nutrition facts have to be on point. The ingredients must be laid out completely. You need to have the barcode. You need to tell the user exactly how they are to utilize the product as well, and key in terms of expiry and the manufacturer's date. The manufacturing information as in terms of where it was manufactured, right? And then of course, all the nutrition facts. Okay, so and I would have mentioned before in terms of bilingual, multilingual labels in terms of where you are shipping, Suriname, Canada, and so on. Pricing. When you are pricing your product, you want to set the pricing in the local currency. So you can't be, let's say, shipping your product to Canada, but you have US dollar pricing. That that does not work. Your pricing has to line up. You're selling product, yes, you're shipping to Barbados, then it should be in Barbados dollars. Yes, so because you have to keep your prices competitive, right? You need to make sure that the price is not too high, that it compares to what is available, right? So again, do your research, understand what the competition is doing in terms of their pricing, among other things, in the target markets that you are pursuing. Okay, exporters need to know the entire process in terms of the supply chain, from the production that is taking place within their facility to actually getting the goods shipped to the new export markets. One of my pet peeves, lack of uniqueness. This is something in terms of our exporters. I think that we need to take the time to understand what makes our product unique, what makes it better, what makes it special. Why would I choose your product versus what is already existing on the shelf? What is that unique value proposition? This is something that you need to spend time with, especially with you looking at the export market, because you need to stand out. And once you understand that, it also gives you a competitive advantage in terms of finding the right distributor, the right partner for you in the export markets. Okay, understanding market differences, cultural and taste differences, and so in different markets. Of course, you want to know that. I gave you the example with the Jamaican rose water. Okay. Product shelf life. You need to ensure that the product has such a good shelf life, especially in terms of where it is being shipped to, right? Even right here in terms of our exporters shipping directly to CARICOM countries, sometimes there are delays that manufacturers experience in terms of getting their goods to Guyana, getting their goods to Jamaica, St. Vincent, Barbados, and so on, because it's ocean freight. Sometimes there are container shortages, right? Or pricing is very high. I remember last year, a lot of my exporters would have been experiencing this. There were discussions between the Shipping Association of Trinidad and Tobago and Export TT and the Ministry of Trade to see how best to minimize the shipping delays. So this is something that you really and truly need to take care of, because if you do not have a sufficient enough product shelf life by the time the product gets into the destination export markets, you may not have a long time to put it on the shelf to have it sold and have it turn around. Okay, so very, very important. That sell-by date is critical, and that is something that you have to work out for yourself. Okay, limited in-market promotions. As I said before, we think about getting the product to the market, but then what happens? And what happens means is really about depending on the market entry mode that you choose. If you have a partner in the market, how is that working out? What did you put in place in terms of effective marketing strategies? And of course, there's a cost attached to that. If you're going directly, do you have a budget? What is the budget and what is the strategy? That needs to be worked out as well. And that means that you would have had to do an in-market visit to understand the competitive landscape of the markets. Digital transformation, I'm not going to go further into that, but I already mentioned it before, right? You need to have specific tools. If you are looking at getting partners in the market, how do you interact with them? And if you're going in directly, how do you how do you market to your customers? And how do you keep in contact with your customers? You need to be looking at customer relationship management systems in terms of funnels, marketing funnels, and so on. Understanding the digital landscape within that particular export market as well is also very, very important. It's not just about local. The type of social media and digital marketing strategies that you use is going to be important for you and your success. So market penetration, finding buyers for your product, wanting to find partners as well for you to do business with, regardless of the market entry strategy. You want to be attending trade shows, participating in trade missions. I know of manufacturers that actually participated in trade missions, met with potential buyers. The buyers then came to Trinidad, visited their factories once, twice, 3 times, and then the agreement was signed so that they are now doing business. They have a good understanding of each other. They have a sound agreement, and they're moving on, right? Business matchmaking sessions, you want to be part of, whether if it's the Manufacturers Association, the one of the bodies that are attached to the Coalition of Services Industries, one of the services associations, or the Chamber of Commerce, so that you can, you know, get pretty okra with what is happening. If you are really now starting out, I know that YBTT has ventured here in terms of exports. You're going to have Export TT, and then I know even NEDCO is looking at getting something done in terms of exporting. Keep your ears to the ground. Understand what's happening in the exporting world in Trinidad and Tobago, and see how best you can tap in to some of those opportunities to basically upgrade your knowledge and skills as it pertains to exporting. All right, buyer recruitment, all of these things are available through some of these, especially Export TT and the Chamber and TTMA. Okay, so now, are you ready to export? I've said quite a bit in terms of exporting, and I have sent off an export readiness assessment to Joshua, who would then send that out to you guys to help you analyze where you are as a business in terms of exporting. It also has a scoring component, and once you're able to determine your score by answering the questions, it then gives you some strategies. It tells you where next, you know, what's next what do you need to do next, I should say, to get you on the right path to exporting. And these are just some of the questions, you know, why do you wish to export? And I think for many of us, it could be all of these things here: increasing sales, expanding your market capacity, you know, extending your product or service life cycle, you know, and so on. Another question would be, you know, how do you rate your company? I said quite a bit in terms of capacity, right? And other things, packaging and labeling and all of that, you know, so these kinds of questions are available in that export readiness checklist. And you need to be honest as you go through the checklist, which I hope and I implore you to do, so that it gives you a snapshot as to where your business is at right now as it pertains to export growth and development. Okay. Right. And then with like everything else, there are pitfalls, and I just wanted to bring this to your attention. You know, in terms of exporting, inadequate market research will definitely, there's no ifs or buts. Inadequate market research is you are not going to be successful. Absolutely not. Right? Poor planning, you're not going to be successful. Obviously, I don't think, I mean, but I guess companies do. If you are in the red, you know, you want to possibly get into the black before you start looking at getting into exports, because it's going to take, exporting is a long game. It takes time. It takes both human and financial resources in addition to time, and you have to be in it for a while for you to achieve the success that you know that you can achieve. All right, timing as well, very, very important. So in summary, what I want to leave you with is to concentrate on your product and strive for excellence, understand your market and competitors, efficiently manage all your processes from production to market, promote your product in the market, honor your commitments, build strong relationships, very, very important going forward. With this presentation, which you will also get, I have a list of resources here in terms of market research, where you can go to do some market research, some desk market research, where you can begin and so on. Okay, intellectual property offices in CARICOM, I've also listed those websites You can get information there. Once you have done some market research and you'll be able to identify which markets that you are interested in, you can do that. I have EPING here. EPING is an online alert mechanism to help businesses stay informed about changes in sanitary and phytosanitary measures and technical barriers to trade in international markets. What all of that is basically to tell you, it's a free service offered by the ITC through the UN and the World Trade Organization, right? What happens is that you have products online, and sometimes for you to get into the market, the regulations keep changing about these particular products, and you have a similar product that you are trying to get into that market. If you sign up for the EPING alert, which is free, and you can go to Export TT website to get more information about it, but you could also visit the ITC International Trade Center's website as well. As changes are being made for market entry, products going into new markets, and sometimes those changes have a lot of those changes could run into the thousands. There's no way for you as a micro or small or medium-sized business to keep track of those changes. What this system does is that it gives you alerts that, there is a change, and you then need to maybe structure the format of your packaging and your labeling, or even your product features and so on, so that you can then gain entry into these markets. Okay, so it's a valuable tool, more to come. I also wanted to share with you some funding opportunities for exporters. Export TT has a range of grant funding and co-financing facilities that you can avail of. There is once you meet the necessary criteria, first, and in some instances for these, you have to be actually exporting as well. So, take a look at that. And I know also during Keegan's presentation in terms of Exim Bank, they also have opportunities there as well. But then again, you need to be exporting. However, it does not preclude you in any way in terms of liaising with these agencies and getting yourself filled with information, get your knowledge base, tap out in terms of gathering information as you prepare for exporting. Okay, so that brings me to the end of my presentation. I hope that it was very informative. I know I went a bit fast, but with the limited time that we have, this is where we are. This is where we're at, and I hope that I was able to share some good insights that will inform the way forward for your exporting journey.